There seems to be no end in sight to the conflict in Libya. Renegade military leader Khalifa Haftar is refusing to sign a ceasefire deal with the UN-recognized government. Turkey and Russia are trying to intervene, but what's the role of the African Union, which is meeting in Botswana? As you know, South Africa took up its position as chair of the AU this month and will be expected to spearhead the drive for peace and economic development. Let's find out more from our reporter, Khalifa Haftar, who's following the story for us. He joins us now live via Skype. So, Kaya, Turkey and Russia have taken the lead on peacekeeping efforts in Libya. What's the AU doing about the situation, given that this is an African country?
Well, Shahan, over the past period, when you look at over the past weekend, South African president, who's also the incoming African Union chair, said he had a conversation with his Egyptian counterpart, who is the outgoing AU chair, also looking at a very important issue of Libya. We know that you go back to 2011. It's been an issue that has just been dominating the headlines for some time, but it's a very intractable conflict. In terms of the role that has been played by the AU, they do have a high-level panel that was set up to try and resolve this particular conflict, but seemingly the international actors appear to have taken a bit of a lead in this particular conflict. So hence now the big question is, has the African Union been able to do a very good job in terms of trying to find African solutions for the African problems? So that's one of the issues that delegates are seized with as part of the African peer review mechanism. So it's one of the organs of the AU. So one of the issues they're looking at is a sustainable peace for the continent.
Ceasefire talks, of course, have been held in Russia with the UN-recognized government leader and military leader Khalifa Haftar. That, of course, failed after Haftar walked out. So what's the AU's plan of action, given that innocent people are now bound to get hurt because there's no end in sight to this conflict?
Shahan, just a short while ago, we got an opportunity to speak to the head of the African peer review mechanism, Professor Maloka, and he was saying that it is a bit of an indictment on African countries that they haven't been able to resolve these particular conflicts because essentially Libyans are African. So by virtue of them being from this continent, the AU should be at the forefront in making sure that Libya is revived. The militias that are mushrooming in Tripoli, they are really stopped from really tearing up a country that once had a success story in Africa, as much as the issues of human rights obviously were a big concern. So hence you saw the Arab Spring, where Libyans also took to the street, and eventually saw the NATO invasion coming into Tripoli and essentially deposing Muammar Gaddafi. And from since then, the country hasn't tasted peace, and obviously the oil dividends that once put Libya ahead, everything essentially collapsed. So in terms of the role, it's going to be very clear as to what is going to the AU going to do in this particular conflict, as the AU summit will be held in Addis Ababa. That's when leaders once again will try and chart a way forward so that they try and address this issue. But of course, 2011 all the way to 2019, AU surely could have done better.
Yeah, so this meeting in Botswana is also focusing on peace and security. What makes this any different to any other talk shop when we have so many countries on this continent in turmoil?
Well, obviously, a lot of people are banking on South Africa. You know that the country has always been a very key player in terms of mediation efforts. So with Pretoria taking over the very key position as the AU chair. So a lot of people are relying on South Africa to make sure that it's taking a very leading role in making sure that there's peace and stability. But obviously, we know that President Ramaphosa is facing a number of domestic challenges, energy and many others, among other things. But of course, going forward, Shahan, it's important to bear in mind that there are a lot of players in Libya already trying to get their hands. So the concern is we don't want to see Libya becoming a theater where the international players really are coming in and exploiting the resources from the country.
All right, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Kai Khumalo is in Botswana.